Boys and girls, you've chosen to make a text to self connection about the story that you read on Raz Kids. Today, what we're going to do is before you start, I'm going to review about text to self connections. First of all, let's talk about a connection. A connection between the book and your life, feelings, or experiences is a text to self connection. There are some sentence starters that we can use for text to self connections when you're talking about it. You could start with, I can relate to this book because, or the text says, and state what it says, which reminds me of, the same thing happened to me, and I know how the character feels because that made me think of the time this story reminds me of. So I'm going to share a few text to self connections that I made with the story, What If Everybody Did That? That's a story we read way back at the beginning of the year when we were talking about character traits. So that made me think of, I know how the lady at the grocery store felt. Because when I was at the grocery store one time, a little boy ran into me with his cart. So I could say the same thing happened to me that happened to the lady at the grocery store. Or I could say, I know how the lady at the grocery store feels because a little boy ran into me with his cart when I was shopping at Meijer. Another thing I'm going to start talk about is the story reminds me of. This story reminds me of when I walk around the Y loop sometimes and I take my dog Rocky and Duke for a walk. Lots of times there is trash that's thrown out by people in car. So the story, when it was talking about the little boy who dropped the soda can out of the car and when the police stopped him, it reminded me of all the trash that I see around the Y loop, and I get sad because people decide to throw away their trash on the road instead of in a trash can. So those are two text to self connections that I made. Now what you need to do is make a text to self connection and post it onto Seesaw that you made with the book that you chose on Raz Kids. I can't wait to listen to your text to self connections.